Okay, so today is June 18th, 2025 at 7:15. We are the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. Thank you all for coming tonight. We also have, what do we have, 174 people on the Zoom, Bob? 174. So hello everybody at home. You missed a great meal tonight. Can we have, I know I'm gonna kill your name, Mariella? Did I get it? What do you guys think of the food tonight from Pizzana? So Mariella is the general manager, so when you guys go in there, you can say hello to Mariella. She embarrasses very easily, so make sure you when you go in there and you say hello to her, make sure you ask her what your name is, because you guys all met her tonight.
I have a good memory, so I should remember everyone's name if you come up to me and ask me. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm used to only talking to my dog at home, not in front of a group of people. Yeah, so I just want to let you all know a little bit about Pizzana. So Pizzana kind of is the American dream, that's what I like to say. So Chef Daniele Uditi came here from Naples himself. He came here with $300 and his family sourdough starter, selling pizzas out of his vans in Venice. We had the opportunity to meet the actor Chris O'Donnell. I'm not sure if any of you know who that is. Yes, perfect. He was Batman, I think, or he was in one of those movies, I believe. I'm not quite sure. So he actually decided to serve pizzas at one of his parties, where he had the fortunate chance of meeting Candace and Charles Nelson. Has anyone ever heard of Sprinkles Cupcakes? Yeah. Oh, I like a little thought back there. Okay, so Candace and Charles are actually the owners and starters of Sprinkles Cupcakes. Well, you all tasted, once they tasted Chef Daniele's pizza, they decided that they had to start a restaurant with him. And then, as I say, usually the rest is history, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about that history. So they opened up their first location in Brentwood in 2017, and then, of course, they decided that they had to come to the Valley, and, of course, come to the heart of the Valley, which is Sherman Oaks, as you all know. There's no other place to be except for Sherman Oaks. So we did open up our location in Sherman Oaks in 2019. I'm going to butcher the name probably. It is on Matillaha. I did it. Okay. Matillaha. And Ventura. So, right now we'd say we're next to Sweet Butter. By next year, we're going to have Sweet Butter say that they're next to us. Okay? So at Pizzana, we serve all of Chef's specials. So as you tasted, the cacio e pepe is one of our specials. It's the first time they've actually turned the pasta into a pizza. And then some great things to know about Pizzana, kind of the three things to know. So our dough is actually fermented and brewed for 48 hours. So the few of you that got seconds, maybe thirds, maybe fourths, I'm sure you noticed that you're not feeling very heavy right now. That's because of that slow dough. So it's a little bit more airy, so it's a little bit lighter in your stomach, a little easier to digest. And then all of our tomatoes that we make our San Marzano sauce out of is actually, those tomatoes are grown exclusively for Pizzana in the Naples countryside. So you can only have our tomatoes there. And then as Chef Daniele likes to say, our fiorda latte, which is our version of the mozzarella, comes from happy cows, because these cows live in pasture that overlook the sea and Italy countryside. I mean, how can they not be happy, right? So when you're coming to Pizzana, you're always going to be getting the freshest and most quality ingredients that there is around. And then another great thing, I'm sure all of you saw in your newsletter that you're getting a special where you get a free pizza with a $25 minimum. Yes? Everyone saw that? We're all using it? Okay, great. So if you would like to continue that, we do actually have our Cacio Club. Now, I don't know what they were thinking when they did this, but the Cacio Club is a rewards program where we just give you things for free. We ask nothing from you except for your email and your name, and we give you free things. So with the Cacio Club, you do get a free pizza every month. You guys are very excited about the free pizza. Yeah. That's what it was, right? So you do get a free pizza every month with a $25 purchase with the Cacio Club. And you get a little exclusives too. So we partner with people, we do some exclusive dinners. So it's a great thing to sign up for. The only thing I ask is, which I don't think would be a problem here, you just select Sherman Oaks as your favorite store. That's the only thing I ask. I don't know what else, but I hope to see you all there. And my name is Mariella. I'm the general manager. Please come see me. I hope to really see you all there. I'm there pretty much all the time. So I look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you.
She said if you have 2 or 3 that you're not full. I had like 8 and I'm very full. Very full. I also want to, so can the board come up here, get some feedback on it. Can the board come up here? And while the board's coming up here, I want to give a special thanks to Jane Kaplan, who gets the restaurants. Jane, stand up. Jane is an amazing lady. Thank you for getting these great restaurants. She's also my wife. So I gotta say she's a great lady. Board, come on up here, Maria.
Hi, I'm Maria Calvin, and I have the legislative committee. And for all of you that have been following, we almost defeated SB 79 in the Senate, 1 vote that was held back until like 5 minutes before the end of the session, and then they voted for it. So we're in the assembly. If you're following me in the newsletters, please write to our Assembly Member Schultz. We need to stop this bill, and follow me, and we'll get this going and defeat it. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Hi everybody, I'm Bob Anderson. I'm co-vice president with Maria and also the chair of the Transportation Committee. And somehow I got elected to be on the website committee. But the good news is that SOHA has a brand new website. You're going to get notice of it on Monday by email. But it's working now, pretty good. And I've shown it to a few people. But it gives us kind of a more modern look and a lot more information. And it's just easier to find things like videos and old newsletters and stuff like that. So that's good. And on the transportation side, you've heard of this Apollo to Pass Transit Corridor, the subway they want to build. Well, they finally put out the draft environmental impact report. This is a smaller one than usual. It's only 21,000 pages long. I finished going through it, every page yesterday. And now I got to figure out to do with everything that's rattling around in here. So we'll see where we go from there. But you'll be getting information about the project. Thank you.
Before you go, you guys, he mentioned the website. You guys, has anyone here looked at the website in the last few days? Okay. Everybody here, please look at the website. This man has been working his butt off for a long time, and it's beautiful, and it has so much information on not just Sherman Oaks and not just our newsletters, but some of the history of Sherman Oaks, and he's going to continue to build it. But I just want to thank you, Bob. You've done an amazing job. Thank you.
And I want to thank Jane Sakan. Jane is a student at Chapman University. She went to Buckley. Her mother works there. And Jane really set the whole thing up. She's just teaching me how to fool around with it now.
That's great. Victor and Kim, you guys want to work your way up? Larry?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Larry Slade. I have the honor to chair the Homelessness Committee in Sherman Oaks. I'm a board member at SOHA, but I don't want to talk to you about homelessness. I want to say that this group, Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, has been a very effective and active advocacy group in Sherman Oaks for many, many years. We've worked to be able to preserve the integrity of our neighborhood. We've opposed successfully many projects that were designed to create higher density and increase traffic. But now, more so than ever, the single-family neighborhoods that we live in and love are under assault from Sacramento and from the LA City Council in a way that has never, ever happened before. We're talking about very real legislative proposals that have a high probability of passing that will permit developers to put mid-rise buildings, 4, 5, 6 stories directly next to your single-family house. Doesn't matter if you live on a cul-de-sac. It doesn't matter whether or not there's sufficient parking. They're vacating all of the rules that we've used for years to protect the integrity of our neighborhoods. If you've lived in Sherman Oaks for more than 10 years, raise your hand. Keep your hand up if you've lived here for more than 20 years. Keep your hand up if you lived here for more than 30 years. Anyone who's lived here more than 40 years. More than 50 years. So there's a reason why you people are in the room is because this is your home.
More than 60 years.
I didn't want to go that high. More than 60 years. My wife was born in Sherman Oaks. I've been here almost 30 years. My mother-in-law lived here for 75. The neighborhoods that were built in the 40s, where you had a single-family lot, are threatened to the point where they may disappear. The developers and the left wing of California politics are coalescing in an effort to create more units, which we favor, but they're doing it in a way that's designed to destroy the integrity of what we love and what we own. Never before has this organization been more needed and more important, so thank you for coming tonight.
So on that note too, thank you, Larry. Let's hear it for Larry. And Maria, hold on. So on that note, our board is shifting a little bit, and Larry's focus is going to be more on that along with Maria. And also on that, Howard Jaffe, can you stand up? Howard, you guys probably all know Howard from meetings and such. Howard is going to be co-chairing the homeless committee with Larry, with the idea of handing it off. Howard is a force. Howard doesn't take no for an answer, and Howard is, if you guys have a homeless issue in your neighborhood, who doesn't, please contact us and we'll put you in touch with Howard. But Howard's going to be co-chairing it and taking that over so that Larry and Maria and a couple of our board members can work on this very, very important issue, which is our homes. So thank you, Larry. Thank you, Howard. Okay.
Hi, I'm Jaime. I'm chair of the airport committees and the Hillside Federation, and all I'm going to say is I completely agree with what Larry just said, and my aspiration is to work as hard as Maria has on those issues, and Bob has in reading all the Metro stuff that he's reading. Someday I'll be able to do that maybe in my next life.
I don't want that. So come on up, you guys. Also, Joan Pellico, you want to stand up, Joan? Joan Pellico is our community liaison. She's, as you all know, she's with different council members over the years. And we also, someone who's not here tonight, which is Kelly. I don't know how many of you, show of hands, that you guys went to the cleanup day a few weeks ago? Okay, there were hundreds of people there, and it was fantastic. It was a great day. Kelly put that all together. Kelly just got elected to the Sherman Oaks Home Association board. So she's our newest member, and we're very excited to have her here. I'll embarrass her at our next meeting. But she's another force and working real hard to keep Sherman Oaks fantastic. Hello, you want to introduce yourselves?
Yes.
And then we're going to get into what we all came here for tonight.
Hi everyone, happy June. Victor Reyes with Assemblymember Nick Schultz. So just quickly want to say that we had a town hall last Wednesday. We had really great turnout, love the energy, really looking forward to a couple of more community events that we're going to be hosting. On Saturday, July 12th, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., we're going to be having a Kick It With Nick session. Basically, come out, meet with the assembly member, talk to him, let him know your concerns, let him know what you're looking for. We definitely want to be a partner for the community, okay? So that's going to be at La Rochelle Bakery and Cafe on Vineman, July 12th from 10 to 11 a.m. If you want to get those updates, please go on our website, you'll get those notifications. On the legislative front, 16 out of the 20 bills that the assembly member has introduced have now made their way to the Senate. Many of them have had hearings already or are scheduled to be heard, so definitely noting that. And we're also getting a couple of workshops set up, so scam stopper workshops, as well as car seat safety installations. Very quickly on SB 79, since I know that's a big one, just want to let you know that we've been out in the community. We are hearing your guys' concerns. We've met with Tess Taylor from Toluca Lake. We're going to be meeting with a couple of other great folks from this community over here. So definitely want to let you know that we are taking your concerns very seriously, and the assembly member will be working on those with the author. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. Sorry about that. I'm Katie Abrams. I'm with Supervisor Horvath's office. I hope at this point I'm becoming a little bit more of a familiar face to all of you. As Bob mentioned, this Toledo Transit Corridor project, I have a couple of more updates on that. So as mentioned, the draft environmental impact report was released. It analyzes a range of rail transit modes, alignment, and station locations to address the transportation needs of this Toledo corridor. Our team has been diligently combing through the information and is still reviewing all of the options. We are really interested in feedback from the communities on which alternative options you prefer. So if anyone has any comments on that, feel free to send them over to me. We're tracking them and want to make sure that we are, supporting the option that the communities that this will affect supports. So beyond that, we are currently in a 90-day commenting period on the draft environmental impact report and on this Boulder Transit Corridor project. That will end on August 30th of this year. There is Metro is hosting information sessions, kind of like what they did before the report was released, but now that we have the report, I hope that that will entice more of you to attend and hear from Metro directly. But there will be one by Zoom on June 23rd, and then on July 21st, it's a Monday, in this exact room, they will be hosting an information session from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. So I really encourage all of you to go and hear more from Metro, and then beyond that, we would love to know the feedback. The supervisor would really love to know your thoughts on which alternative you support.
Thank you, guys. All right. So Jamie, you want to come on up? While Jamie's coming up, I just want a couple of notes that usually I save to the end, but I'm not going to because I don't want you folks at home. I don't want you folks at home to go to sleep and not hear these two announcements. Number one, July, we are always dark, so we will not be having a meeting in July. So we will be back live in August, the third Wednesday in August. Also, for our August meeting, we are going to have our police chief, Jim McDonald. So I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say. I'm glad we didn't schedule him for tonight because he was probably resting after the last couple of weeks, well deserved. Oh, and our new start time is 7 o'clock. Thank you, Bob. Our new start time is 7 o'clock. And also, I just want to make a note, you guys, Los Angeles Police Department, as well as the fire department, the Los Angeles Police Department is always there for us. And this is the first time in a long time that they have not sent representatives, probably because they are relaxing and taking some time off. It's been a hellacious week in Los Angeles and across the country, actually the last few months, but it's been challenging. And I just want to put it out there to them and to all of you guys that when you do see our sworn officers on the street, just tell them how much we appreciate that because they need it. So this young man here is a native Los Angeles. He is born and bred here. He is commander of the whole San Fernando Valley. And I'd love for him to get into a little bit of meat and potatoes on who you are, what makes you tick, and then we're going to get into why you were invited, which was that we went through a few fires a few months ago, and what we can do to a lot of Sherman Oaks is in the hills, a lot of Sherman Oaks is in the foothills, and a lot of Sherman Oaks is in the flatlands. And as we saw in Altadena, you don't have to be in the hills to be affected by fire. So. The microphone is yours, and I have a handful of questions here for you.
Thank you, Matt. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Jaime Moore, and I was raised in Los Angeles. I attended UCLA. I graduated from UCLA, went on to become a LA City firefighter 30 years ago. Went on to get a master's degree from Cal State Long Beach, and I got an opportunity to go to our National Fire Academy and became an executive fire officer. There's only 2 members of the Los Angeles Fire Department that have the title of executive fire officer within our agency. The other was Chief Crowley, who now serves as an assistant chief with the Los Angeles Fire Department. So I'm very proud that she and I are the only ones that can actually boast it. It's a 4-year program. It's very intense. It's aimed for developing future fire chiefs, so I was very fortunate to participate with that. Got a great network of individuals that I work with from all over the United States. I'm constantly on the phone with the number 2 person in Houston because we have a lot of similarities in some of the issues that we face from the city of Houston and the city of Los Angeles. I went on to Cornell University and studied diversity, equity, and inclusion and conflict resolution, and now getting ready to break out of my comfort of being a Bruin and attend next week. I'm going to the executive leadership program at USC. I know it's very difficult. It's going to be a very difficult week for me, but I will find a way to make myself attend class. And I will find a way to make sure that I do not do anything to Tommy Trojan statue while I'm there. I'm sure they are. But that's a little bit about myself. And so I was very fortunate to come out here about a year and a half ago. I came back to the Valley. I had not been assigned to the Valley since I was a very young firefighter. I worked in Pacoima. I loved my time in Pacoima, but I spent most of my time in South Los Angeles and Hollywood. And then the last 7 years before that, I was the Assistant Chief and Deputy Chief in Operation South Bureau, which covers everything from pretty much the Chevy Hills borderline all the way down to the waterfront. So I had all the shipping containers, I had all of the port, I had all the fire boats, I had everything in South Los Angeles. It was very exciting when we had the Black Lives Matter issues that occurred, and we saw unrest in the city of Los Angeles. Happened to be the incident commander that ran that. And so having been to the Valley, it was an eye-opener when I asked for my first flight to see my district. And we kept flying and flying and flying. And I'm like, okay, where are we going? And they're like, Chief, this is all your district. And I was like, okay, I have 39 fire stations. I have a population of about 2 million people. And it wasn't until I actually sat with Chief McDonald, we were talking about the San Fernando Valley, and he said to me in his strong Bostonian accent, he said, Jamie, do you realize that if the city of Los Angeles lost the San Fernando Valley, the San Fernando Valley would actually be the 5th largest city in the United States? Yeah. And I was like, wow, that was a sense of huge responsibility. So it's an honor to be here as your deputy chief. I am blessed with an incredible group of firefighters. With me today, I have assistant chiefs. I have Assistant Chief Justin Moore. I have Captain Sean Kinker. Battalion 10 is made up with Chief Barna and his adjutant Trayvon. And I don't know if they came because they want to be my reinforcements, or if they thought this was going to be like a piñata and they're going to watch me just get battered tonight with questions. So we'll see how the night goes. But the reality is this, and thank you for those of you who are watching at home on Zoom. When I got the call and was asked to come out, I know how sensitive a topic brush clearance is, home hardening is, and I know there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. So after the fires we had in January, and please understand we had 8 major fires in Los Angeles starting on the 7th. The one everybody remembers is the Palisades fire. Well, I shouldn't say everybody remembers, because I put it in the front of my PowerPoint presentation. So there's going to be a PowerPoint presentation that will be available to you on the website. I want to thank Bob. Bob and Matt have been the most gracious hosts. They've been in contact with me from the day we started talking about coming here tonight. They have made themselves available to me to answer any questions that I had coming in here. And I was able to provide them the information they wanted in preparation for tonight. So the PowerPoint presentation I'm going to be working off of just some sheets here that are in front of me will be available to all of you on the website.
The new one.
On
New website.
the new website for the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. You have an incredible group of people, your board. I got an opportunity to speak to a lot of them today about issues on homelessness, brush clearance, water supplies in the area. So you have people who are truly advocating for this community, and I can't thank you enough for the work you do, because I know that a lot of people don't take the time to say thank you. So thank you very much. I can't wait to talk to you and Howard about some of the homelessness issues. And I'll tell you, after hearing you speak, you had me wondering, is my home safe? Because it's true. No, it's absolutely true.
Are you within a half mile of a transportation corridor?
No.
Then you're safe.
Yeah.
For now.
For now. But again, things are changing. So coming here tonight, we prepared a PowerPoint presentation. So of the 8 major fires we had, the 2 most known were the Palisades, and obviously the one that happened in the county, which was the Eaton fire. We had 6 in the San Fernando Valley. Most people don't even know about the first fire because it was in Silmar, we had 2 homes damaged. We had the creek fire, we had, all the other fires were put out relatively quickly, and we did not have air support until the 3rd day because of those winds. And those winds took a toll on the city of Los Angeles. If you haven't had an opportunity since last weekend, they just opened up the Palisades, and many of you may have directly been impacted. Either your homes or businesses or family members were directly impacted by what happened in the Palisades. But if you haven't had a chance, one day, go out there and take a look at it. It will blow your mind. The photos don't do it justice as to the extent of the damage that was there. We're going to talk about things about home hardening and brush clearance, and you're going to selfishly think, well, how can I still live in my home and enjoy the beauty of Southern California if I have to clear back the brush and trees as much as they want me to do? When you go there and you see what the combination of wind and fire can do to your homes, you'll understand. You really will understand. And I can tell you firsthand that people, when they hear me speak, think, it's not going to happen to me. I can tell you the morning that fire started, my college roommate called me. I just visited his house on the 28th. He lives in the Palisades. He just remodeled his home in the Palisades. He's an attorney. And he called me that morning and said, hey, Jaime, I hear there's a fire. I can see the smoke. Do you think I need to evacuate? And I said, you know what, Bill, that fire is way up in the islands. It's so far from your house because he lives down in the Alphabet Streets. And I said, you don't worry about it. But just in case, I said, we have this program called Ready, Set, Go. Start packing up some of your stuff, especially any heirlooms, your birth certificates, yours, your kids, passports, marriage certificate, anything that you just can't part with, photos, computers, hard drives, whatever it is, just put them in your car just in case, but that fire is not going to get anywhere near you. I called him at 4 o'clock and I said, get out. You gotta go. You gotta leave. Well, he's kind of a stubborn man. He was working on a project for one of his clients. He didn't leave until 7 o'clock. He said at 8 o'clock his Ring camera went dark. He called me the next day, and Captain Kinker, back there, I called him, and so Bill called me and said, hey, can you go check on my house? I called Captain Kinker, who was out at the Palisades, and he'd been out all night working the Palisades fire, went out there, and he called me and he goes, hey, Chief, I went to the address that you gave me, and it's gone. And I said, what do you mean it's gone? And he goes, Chief, the whole block is gone. I said, there's no way. And he showed me the flagstone steps that led to his house. And I couldn't believe it. I had to call my college roommate and tell him that everything he had was gone. Literally was gone. And I said, you did take everything that I told you to take, didn't you? And he goes, I'll be honest with you, my wife got me a brand new suit for Christmas. That was the only thing I took out of the house with me. He lost everything. The guy is amazing. He's got a great spirit. But when I talk about these things tonight and say people think it's not going to happen to them, trust me, everybody thinks it's not going to happen to them. And so it helps to be prepared. It helps to ask the questions you're going to ask me tonight. And please understand, I may not have all the answers, but I can help find the answers. A lot of the questions I get are very specific to your homes. So if they're specific to your homes, let's talk about those kind of at the end. And I will answer all your questions. I really will. So we took this presentation and we kind of looked at it from 3 different aspects. The environment, infrastructure, and behavior. So environment is brush clearance. And that's why you're all here is like, what do I have to do to make sure my home's safe with regards to brush clearance? So we're going to touch on that. When you talk about infrastructure, you're talking about hardening your home, making your home safer by taking specific actions. Now, please understand when we start talking about the infrastructure, it can be extremely costly. I was talking to one of the members in the audience about an assessment she did and what she paid to have that assessment done and the actions she took based off that assessment. And it can be very costly, and we'll talk about some of the things you can do to protect your home. And then behavior. Again, the big thing is a lot of people think it's not going to happen to them. that Ready, Set, Go program, it's not just something we practice here in the city of Los Angeles. This is statewide, nationwide. As I said, I have friends from all over, different fire agencies all over the country. They all practice Ready, Set, Go. It may not necessarily be for a brush fire, and it may not necessarily be for an earthquake, because that's something that affects us mostly here in Southern California. But they definitely do the same things when it comes to hurricanes and tornadoes. And unfortunately, with the climate all being altered the way it has, we're seeing brush fires in places that we've never encountered them before. On the East Coast, they're not used to those kind of things. I mean, literally, I had a friend of mine call me from York, Pennsylvania, and he goes, "This is what I got a fast-moving fire, and it's going through our forest. What the heck do you guys do on something like this? We don't normally see this." And we talk our way through it. So I looked at the seasonal weather outlook before we put this together, and it goes all the way into August. You're going to see a tilt of the temperatures being a little higher this season, which is going to cause us to have larger fires. And if you haven't noticed in the last few years, the magnitude of our fires have increased quite significantly. I mean, you think back at Paradise, you saw what happened at the Palisades, you saw what happened in Eaton, and that was in January. You know, even our fire up in Silmar was off to the races. And so we're prepared. The Los Angeles Fire Department is prepared both for the air and on the ground for fast-moving fires. We are really well prepared for evacuations. We're in the process right now of working with LAFD to train them on Genesis. We're going to talk about Genesis, and we're going to talk about other apps that are available to you. But you're going to see larger fires this year, especially in the Central Coast area, the Western Mountains, Eastern Mountains, and along our Santa Monica Mountains. So let's talk about environmental. What do we do? So brush clearance process. This is the way the brush clearance program works for the state of Los Angeles. At the beginning of the spring, an LAFD letter is sent out, and many of you guys have probably received this. It's sent out to all of our high fire severity zones. Property owners are responsible for making sure that the parcels meet our requirements, and that is by the fire code. And your parcel will automatically be inspected by the LAFD, and that starts in May. If your parcel is good to go, you will never hear from us again in that season. If the parcel fails, a notice to comply will be sent, and that will include the next steps that you need to take. If it fails a second time, we actually send people out there to clear the brush, and you will then be assessed for the work that was done. So some people just choose to wait all the way to the end, and we hire people, and then they get a property tax assessment to pay for the costs of that abatement. Things that you need to look for. These are the things that we're going to look for, and I guarantee you this is what's going to go through all of your minds. You're going to think of your neighbor, and you're going to go, wait, my neighbor doesn't do that. Before you start thinking about your neighbor, let's do a self-assessment first, and then we can start talking about our neighbors and the steps we need to do to get our neighbors to comply. So things real simple, grasses should be 3 inches high. I know you're thinking of that one that has the knee-high grass going wild. Trees should be about 10 feet away from the fences, 18 feet away from buildings, 5 feet of clearance between the roof line and the tree. Native shrubs should be trimmed up to about 1/3 of their height. If you have large growth spans of land, 200 feet away from your actual home, and then trees should be about 10 feet away from the roadway. And those are just the highlights. So that's brush clearance. If you take those steps and you start planting succulents, some of the California natural vegetation, your home's going to be pretty safe. But now let's start talking about hardening our homes and the steps we need to do to protect our homes because there's a lot of things that we do naturally that we kind of take for granted, like where we put patio furniture, where we put our trash cans, where we stack our firewood. And if you think back, and this is really the most basic way to explain home hardening, remember the story of the 3 little pigs? The first little pig went into sticks, right? A little hay house, didn't do a darn thing to protect them. The next one went into wood structure, didn't stop the big bad wolf from coming in. It wasn't until those 3 little pigs ended up in the which house? A brick house. That literally is the best way to explain what home hardening is. If you were to build a home, the best thing you could do is to build one out of concrete or brick. As crazy as that sounds. Now, I know there were a lot of comments about Rick Caruso's properties up in the Palisades, and they said, how come his stuff didn't burn down? And I heard all of the comments and theories that the fire department circled his properties and would protect it. And that's not true. He took it upon himself because he was building new construction, and he had the finances to do it, to build construction that was fire resistant. That's home hardening. That's building that brick house. That's building the concrete structure. That's taking proactive steps to protect your homes. And unfortunately, when you look at places like the Palisades, or you look at places like the Eden fire, you have such a wide variety of homes that were built over such a large spans of time. You had homes that were built out of wood and materials that weren't fire resistant, with vents that were open and were not protected, and vegetation that had been growing for a long time that hadn't been cut back properly. And so those homes, once they started igniting, started lending it to other homes that might have been a little more protected because they were stucco, or they were the smooth Venetian stucco. But again, those had vents and they had open soffits. So one of the things we found was in the Palisades, you had embers going into structures, and as our firefighters were trying to progressively get in front of this fire, there were fires burning in these homes that they just didn't see because they were up in the attics. And then once the houses just started taking off with those winds, and the winds were just making it a blowtorch, there was no stopping it. And then when we started running into our hydrant issues and the water supply issues, it only exacerbated things. And that was the same thing that happened at the Eden fire. That's why those homes were burning as rapidly as they were. And as we mentioned in the beginning, you have flatlands like the Eden fire, it just became a big fireball. The winds, 100-mile-an-hour winds, were just circling things. So if it didn't burn the first time, it was catching it on its way back around. So it was really devastating. So you have a large spectrum of how we build our homes. I think what we're going to see in the Palisades is you're going to see a lot of homes that are much more fire resistant as homes are being rebuilt. So just remember the effects that those winds play with embers, because although it may not be direct flame impingement that gets in your home, those embers will get up into your attic spaces and it will push it. And the way our homes were built, especially in the era of the 40s all the way into the late 80s, was our homes were made to breathe. They were made to breathe. Like where I grew up in Venice, we didn't have air conditioning. You opened the window and you had the little whirlybird on top. So as the wind would blow, because we got that coastal eddy that would come through from over the ocean coming in the evening, it would push into the house, and then all that heat would come out of your house, and that's what made the whirlybird go. So you knew you had a hot house when you saw those whirlybirds, just the little fans on top spinning. So understand that a lot of these homes, that was what they're designed to do. They actually suck from the outside, and then they push it out of the roof. Well, if you ever get into your attic, what is attic? Well, the attic is just bare wood. There's no protection in there. So what we need to do now is start hardening our homes to protect those embers from coming in and getting up into there. So let's just talk about the easiest to the cheapest and most difficult and expensive ways of doing it. Property hygiene is really easy. Removing debris piles, storing things, patio furniture that are next to your structure, very easy to do. Just pull them away. Sheds. When you put a shed, shed. Don't put it right next to your house. I know it's convenient. You're gonna get up in the morning on a Saturday, do yard work, you go outside, you don't wanna walk a long way to your shed. Storage of trash, you don't wanna walk a long distance, but just understand when you're doing that, it might be convenient, but those have a tendency to catch fire, and then you're gonna have it right next to your home. So if it's as easy as it is to just move it away, just move it away. A lot of people store their firewood right next to their homes. Don't make that a practice. Again, it's a lot of convenience. That's why we do it. In some places, you have no other choice because it's such narrow easements between the two homes. Find a place in the back. Just think, if this were to be on fire, what can I do? What steps can I take? Excuse me. What steps can I take to mitigate this? Clearing out the roof line. Simply removing, and it's funny, the other day I walked into Ace Hardware to get a couple of screws, and I saw this tool, and it was a rake that actually had a angle to it, and it came with a big pole, and I was looking at it, and I started reading what it was, and I thought, I've never seen a rake like that. It's for clearing out your rain gutters, and you just screw it onto the end of the pole, and you can just walk across the rain gutter. You don't have to climb the ladder, you don't have to do all those things to get up on your roof to clear out your rain gutter. You just walk by and you just push it to one end and then you scoop it out. And then they make things that protect your rain gutters to keep all the debris from there. But a lot of our homes get all the falling leaves, the dry pine, and it just stacks up on your roof. Those are all very dangerous. The type of materials, I can't think of too many homes now in the San Fernando Valley, especially in Sherman Oaks, that have wood shake roofs. But obviously, you know, wood shake roofs is like the big, that's living in the little straw house that the little pig ran into. I mean, those days are long gone. They looked great, you know, the little cottages with the wood shake roofs, they were beautiful. Now they make fake wood shake, but even comp. Think about the type of comp. Comp is just oil-based asphalt. It's very flammable. So start thinking about your concrete roofs or your steel roofs. Those have a tendency to be much more fire resistant. Seal gaps and cracks in your windows, under your doors, all of those things. I mean, literally a crack under your door might lend for some nice ventilation, but you will see embers come through. I actually went to a brush fire where I saw a chief officer leave his window cracked while we were at the brush fire, and we were literally engaged in firefighting, and I turned around and the crack of his window, because he was leaving it so it could breathe a little bit, he had embers going there. He lost his sedan. It burned. It was gone. He happened to work for Culver City, and boy, you talk about having to write that report. Holy mackerel. If you do put the screen up, the smaller the mesh, the better. So don't get big squares of screen to put over your vents. Use smaller mesh. The smaller mesh, believe it or not, will stop those embers from getting in there. 1/8 inch mesh is usually the best. If you have the ability to change your roof, or you are in need of a roof, consider the materials you're choosing to use your roof. If you're gonna redo your roof, consider enclosing your soffits, because that's what we use for ventilation. That was something that we've always used, but now, with fire season as dangerous as it is, we've seen what those embers will do, and you do not want those embers to get up into your ventilation system for the home. The other thing is, when you leave your home, shut off your air conditioning systems. Some people left their air conditioning, it's just going to suck it in and put it right into the house. So those are things you want to consider. Single pane windows, again, expensive. But if you can change out your windows from single pane to dual pane, or even the triple pane windows, it's well worth it. It serves as an insulation to protect you from the outside environment, and it's less likely to break under high temperatures. So that's our infrastructure. Now let's talk about the ready, set, go mentality. Obviously, behavior is everything. If you're participating in this, you're open to these ideas. Again, you've taken the time to be here tonight to sit with me and to talk about brush clearance. So that's the first step, is realizing there's a potential that I may have to protect my home. The next thing is having a plan. Again, a lot of people think it's never going to happen to them. I mean, how many times have we talked about the earthquakes? And I saw how many people here raise their hand for 40, 50 years living in Sherman Oaks, even into the 60s. So I was talking to somebody the other day about, he told me, last night I was in San Fernando, and he told me he'd been living in Silmar for a long time. And I said, do you remember the 72 earthquake in Silmar? 71. Was it 71? 71. I was off right here. 71 earthquake in Silmar. My father had previously lived in Silmar before they moved to the west, and his home was split in half in Silmar earthquake. And a lot of people only think about the 1990, was it 91 earthquake? 94, there you go. My dates are all off. I remember I was in Tahoe when the 94 earthquake happened, and I came down to all the devastation that was happening here. But they always talk about the 94 one, but that one dropped all of you hospital. We talk about these earthquakes, but I always ask people, do you have an earthquake kid? Do you? Good. I love the yes. Do you have a pair of sneakers under your bed? Good. Do your family members know where to meet in the event you have to get out of your house and your house isn't something you can walk back into? Where would you meet? Outside, after you shelter in the house and get out, or if there's a fire. And then do you have a contact outside of the state of California that everybody can call into to talk about and say, hey, I'm okay. And I always pick family members in Iowa because they're always quick to call me when anything happens in California, so I figure they'll be worried about me the most. So my wife's family's from Iowa, and so we always say, okay, this is who we're gonna call. We'll call Uncle Howard in Iowa, and he's gonna let everybody know they're safe. So those are the things you need to do to just really start thinking about the behavior. Prepare yourself. Have an action plan for wildfires. And then there's apps that you can download. So there's two apps that were very, very commonly used during the Palisades fire. One was called Genesis, and I'll hold this up so you can kind of see what they look like. Genesis, the one that is to my left, and the other one was Watch Duty. They're apps that are nonprofit organizations that will give you information about the evacuations. Out of curiosity, was anybody here evacuated during the Palisades fire from your neighborhood in Sherman Oaks? I don't think, did you, Bob? Okay. Voluntary, okay. I know Encino, we did evacuate Encino, because I had to talk to the incident commander of the Palisades fire and say, hey, we really do, on my end, need to move some people out of the Encino area because it was coming over Mulholland and it was coming up to Encino. So I was very concerned. We had engine companies lined up and helicopters dropping constantly to make sure it didn't get into Encino. I had promised Councilmember Rahman that I was going to do everything I could to make sure it didn't get into her district, and thank God I was able to follow through with that promise. But a lot of people who were evacuated used Watch Duty and Genesis to get their updates. Very, very good apps that we even use in the fire service. And like I said, we're about to start working on teaching LAPD the importance of Genesis. We as a city are going to be using Genesis to identify the areas when we do evacuations so that we're all on the same page. Because LAPD was doing it by street index and we were doing it by areas. And so it was very confusing, and we as incident commanders were having to sit down and talk about this, and it was like, hey, there's got to be a better system. So we all moved to the Genesis system, and it works great. But have a wildfire action plan. Talk to your family, talk to your neighbors, go to meetings like this, and develop a plan as to what you're going to do in the event that your homes are threatened in a wildfire. Have family members that you feel that you can go to and that they already are aware that you live in a high fire severity zone and you may need to be housed for a certain amount of time. Now, I know it all depends on where you live and who you know and your own situation. I mean, I heard of people at the Palisades who got on airplanes and they went to Hawaii for 3 weeks. And it's like, well, not everybody can do that, you know? It's just, some people have better situations than others. And they came back and they're faced with the same problems that people who couldn't get out. But The other thing you need to do is practice your plan. When you start talking about ready, set, go, think about, okay, what items are we really gonna pack up? How are we gonna put them in the car? You may have an animal that normally doesn't ride in a kennel or a crate in a car. If you're in the event of a wildfire, practice it before you actually have to put the dog in the car. When I go up into our foothills area, up into Summerlin, Tahunga, I talk to a lot of our equestrian families, and I say the same thing. Get your horses and have them practice getting into the trailer. Because when you have to go is not when you want to teach your horse it's okay. Because they're in a panic. Our animals know when we're in a panic, they're in a panic, they smell things before we smell things, they get a sense. So practice these things not only with your animals, but with your children, grandchildren, family members. If you have somebody that's going to have a tough time getting into the vehicle, leave way before. If you need assistance, let's talk to the fire department. We had ambulances going up to Encino when I had to do that evacuation and move people who needed help. The earlier we can do it, the better, because it allows us to focus on the fire that's coming. Things you want to take, and I mentioned them when I talked about Bill's situation: prescriptions, vitamins, glasses. If you're like me, as I've gotten older, I've needed these more and more. So have a couple sets of glasses. Your pictures, your irreplaceable items, your heirloom items, things that you probably wouldn't think about them now. Personal computers, hard drives, thumb drives, any discs, whatever memorabilia you have. Think about plastic, your credit cards, cash. I always like to keep some cash available because you never know when you may need cash. And then park your car in a way that you know it's pointed in the right direction. And then have one, if you have the ability to have more than one way to get out, practice it. Don't wait until your fire is cutting off that evacuation route that you're normally used to, and you're not familiar with the other ways. Don't rely on Waze, don't rely on Google Maps, don't rely on Apple Maps. Have some familiarity with it. And then when it's time to go, and they knock on your door, go. And I know there's a lot of people that say, you know what, I'm gonna stay back and I'm gonna protect my house. Good luck. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. And I can tell you this, in the San Fernando Valley, I have 39 fire stations full of men and women who are well-trained, well-equipped, and ready to risk their lives to protect your property. Not just you, but your property. They will go all out, and they've proven it to me, and they prove it to me every single day, that they will go all out for what you leave behind. And I can tell you, our relationship with LAPD and law enforcement in general, because we do have other agencies that come in under these events, go out of their way to protect your properties, to prevent looting and the break-ins. We didn't see any of it, and they do an incredible job of maintaining that security of your properties. On the website, you're going to see things about Assembly Bill 38, the LAFD, which is about brush clearance. You'll see more information on there about brush clearance. Again, this is going to be on the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association website. You'll get some information about Zone 0. It'll explain a little bit more about Zone 0. Now, Zone 0 isn't in effect yet, because I had somebody come up to me and ask me about Zone 0. We can talk about Zone 0, but Zone 0 isn't in effect yet. It's still being negotiated with the state of California, but it basically is increasing the footprint of the requirements for the high fire severity zone in areas that probably in the past have never thought about that they were in the high fire severity zone. And so it's going to be incorporating those areas because of their concerns. If you have a neighbor dispute or a problem neighbor, call 311. Information will then decide whether it's a law enforcement issue or if it's a fire department issue, so we can go out there and assist you. And then we have a partnership with an organization called My Safe LA. on this PowerPoint presentation, when you see it, there'll be a link to My Safe LA. They do an incredible job educating our public. They do a lot of work with homeowners associations with regards to resiliency and protecting your home. And then there's also information on the PowerPoint about CERT program. If you haven't thought about having a CERT program for your homeowners association, I would encourage you to think about it. It's 7 classes, they're free. They're taught in both English and Spanish, and they will come out and teach you all the basics about emergency preparedness, first aid, what to do in the event of a fire, earthquake, traumatic incidents. 7 classes which will truly fortify your neighborhood and make you a much more resilient community. And with that, I will turn it over to the questions that we have already forwarded.
Thank you. That is a lot of good information, thank you.
I hope it wasn't too long.
No, it was perfect. A lot of folks in the foothills and in the hills of Sherman Oaks have neighbors that don't do brush clearance ever, and don't do, and the city or the county doesn't do it either. And because the neighbors that I'm talking about is the Santa Monica Conservancy. Santa Monica Conservancy owns a lot of acreage in Santa Monica in our hills. And if a careless person throws a cigarette out on Coldwater Canyon, or a homeless person decides to go up Coldwater Canyon and set up the camp and decides to light a fire, the area doesn't just affect that area, it'll quickly go over the hill into Sherman Oaks. On the other side of Coldwater Canyon is Long Ridge community, on the other side of that is Dixie Canyon, Ventura Canyon, and it goes in and out, in and out. And in each of those canyons is its own little microclimate, as you know, the winds and the fires create their own little microclimates. What's happening with the city asking or forcing Santa Monica Conservancy to do brush clearance on the land that abuts neighbors or that abuts residential neighborhood streets so that it's taken care of?
And that's a great question, and that was something that we actually approached Councilmember Rahman and Councilmember Padilla about in our districts. I can tell you, Councilmember Rodriguez was instrumental up in the Angeles National Forest areas where we have some areas that are owned by DWP, because even within our own city, we have our own people who aren't managing the brush and the brush clearance. Some areas that are owned by Southern California Edison. So it's not just the Conservancy, but they have been instrumental in reaching out to them and working with the state government to try to address those things and finding ways to get them to come out and actually address those grasses, because you're absolutely right. Why should we enforce our communities to manage their brush, but yet we're not managing the brush when it comes to, properties that literally butt up against this land. And so they've been instrumental in trying to get out there and get them to do it. We're seeing more proactive measures on their part. It's slow, it's not a priority for them, but they are taking steps to mitigate those areas.
So is there a contact at Santa Monica Conservancy that we can actually call and ask for brush clearance in certain areas?
So what I would do is I would work through your council office, and they'll reach out to them. I'll tell you, I know they will. Because the first call they do is to us, and we go out there and say, well, this isn't a city property. This isn't owned by the city, this is owned by the Conservancy.
They were laughing at you.
I know they were, but I know it's and trust me, because when we start talking about the Sepulveda Basin.
No, we get into that.
We will, I know. But when we start talking about it, I can tell you this, it's very slow, and I keep telling myself we have to be more patient in trying to get some of these things addressed. But it's a constant reminder to me that, you know, I as a firefighter, and these guys will tell you, you tell me, hey, this needs to be fixed, we're fix-it people. We go out there, we address it, and it's done. I mean, my kids will tell you I do that with them. Tomorrow better be done. And
So
it's not happening.
So let me ask you, you brought up, so a smaller brush fire, let's say it's Sepulveda flood basin, the Sepulveda Park, or the basin. What does that cost to fight a small little brush fire that does not get out of control? You sent a couple of trucks, you sent some guys out there, you sent some ambulances. What does that cost? Dollars, and then what does it cost?
So there's, and we talked about this earlier, so it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars when we respond to the Sepulveda Basin. And that's because of the resources we use. But even more importantly, that it's what we're doing to the communities that we're being pulled away to try to address these fires, because it ties us up to mitigate that slow-moving brush fire, and it's pulling resources from other districts. So when you have 106 fire stations in the city of Los Angeles, and we have an incredible system where when we respond to something, we move other resources up. So we're constantly monitoring our boards as to make sure everything's protected. And so what it does is it depletes other districts from those emergency responders that would be available to respond to your 85 to 90% of what we do is medical related to those emergencies, those true emergencies. So it's a cost in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on how much is burning. I can tell you in the last year and a half, we've had 364, is that right, Chief Barnum? 364 fires in the basin since a year and a half. And I know as you look at the basin, you're gonna say, well, how do they start? Because you don't have power lines running through the basin. Yeah, you know how they start, and that's one of the biggest challenges we have is addressing the homelessness issue and trying to mitigate the brush and the grasses, the tall grasses. Because understand, for us, when we look at it, it's a stepped fuels. So we look at the short grasses, we look at the higher grasses, we look at the brush, and we look at the trees. And we understand the magnitude of what could happen there. So we have a program that we're ready to move forward with. We actually have two options, and one is to actually do the brush clearance ourselves. We, as a matter of fact, today I celebrated our crew force graduation. It's the first paid crew of young men and young lady. There's one woman in the crew who will actually go out there and clear the brush. And we'll mitigate it, and we'll work with our partners from the city to get all that brush pulled out. The problem is we need to get the homeless people relocated and housed, and some of them are reluctant to leave. And so we're asking the mayor's office for their assistance. And I can tell you this, both Councilmember Rahman, Councilmember Padilla have been instrumental in supporting us in this. They're very familiar with the problems, and they don't like them any more than we do. But they also recognize that we have to do something with the individuals who have now inhabited these areas. And we've had a head count. The number of people that are living in the basin right now are about 285 people. And that's during the day. Understand that that count wasn't done at night, because we do know that there's a larger influx of individuals who come at night, some of them in cars. And understand, and I'm not going to get into homelessness and all that, but there's a lot of reasons why people are homeless, and they're looking for places to park their cars or sleep in tents, and a lot of them are very reluctant to leave. And if we believe that if we were given the opportunity to clear some of the vegetation that's there so that there's no areas to hide, and we can lift the height of the trees from the ground and reduce the grasses down to small grasses, they probably wouldn't be residing there because it's not a hiding place. The other option we have is to do controlled burns. And there's a lot of people who are concerned with the controlled burns because of the environmental impact. But understand that fires are a natural thing. They happen in the forest. many times happen in the forest without us even knowing that they're happening in the forest. It's really good for the vegetation that's there to fertilize the soils. It's good for nature. And we've also been working with environmentalists to make sure that the impact of us doing a controlled burn would be minimal to none on the bird population and the other animals that inhabit the Sepulveda Basin. So we're trying to cover all the bases. We've got an incredible group that Chief Barnes has actually been spearheading for the last year plus. That has Rex and Parks as part of it. It has MRCA, Army Corps of Engineers, the Fire Department's part of it, LAPD is part of it, and both. Well, it's really the Councilmember Padilla is the kind of the one who's really spearheading things for us and really working with city government to try to push this forward so we can get in there and do this.
So, just so you all know, there's a third option too as far as the Sepulveda flood basin. I mean, if you take $100,000, last year alone there were 204 fires in the Sepulveda flood basin. That would be $20 million that'd be freed up for the fire department and the resources as far as to do other things. So there's another option which Rob Bluchon and the Encino Property Owners Association is spearheading, which our board took a vote recently to support that as well, and that's to make the Sepulveda flood basin a no camping zone. So that would make the camping illegal, that would put a stop on it, and that would give the law enforcement an opportunity to go ahead and make arrests instead of just tying their hands. Then these guys could go in there and do the clearance that they needed to do without taking the risk, because these homeless encampments in the Sepulveda flood basin and other areas are booby trapped, and these guys get hurt often.
Unfortunately, we did have a firefighter, I think it's been a year now, who responded to a fire in there, and it was a cooking fire, and the propane container exploded. He almost lost his entire right ear. Fortunately, we have incredible medical personnel in the city of Los Angeles, and they were able to sew it back on. But if we have seen when you walk through there in the brush, there are fishing lines with fish hooks that are aimed at hooking us as we walk through there. There's areas where they've dug large holes. Bamboo isn't a native species there. They grow a lot of bamboo because they use it for construction. And they also use it to create booby traps where they dig large holes. They'll put pieces of bamboo and they sharpen them. And unfortunately, they put excrement in there. So that if we were to step in them, obviously we'd probably get infected. But they don't do it just for law enforcement and fire. They do it because they also have these conflicts within their
Rivals.
rivals. Yeah. And they want to keep them out. And so a lot of the fires that we see are intentionally set so they can drive people out of the area.
All right. So a couple questions. Robert Thomason, are you here? Can you stand up so that, there you go.
Hi, Robert.
And Julie Qua, are you here? Okay, so they can address you. So both of these guys have a similar question. Robert wants to know some of the homeless encampments in the, well, he was talking about the Sepulveda flood basin, okay? But Julie was talking about, she lives close to a parkland, a neighbor who lives close to the entrance of Crisp Canyon off of Valley Vista.
Okay.
And they keep hearing people at nighttime up in those hills. And she's worried about the smoke, she's worried about them making their cooking and they're keeping themselves warm. What can be done when that happens?
Well, unfortunately, the only thing you can do is call LAPD and ask them to come out. But I can tell you this, it's a very difficult thing to move people off around your property. That is truly a law enforcement issue. It's sad, but that's truly the state of our city of Los Angeles. The best thing to do, again, is to reach out to LAPD. They'll come out, they'll make a report. They may make contact with these individuals, which just the nuisance alone will cause them to leave just because they're being bothered by it. And it sounds silly, but I don't know if any of you guys have noticed when you go to 7-Eleven, there's a lot of classical music played. You guys notice that when you go to 7-Eleven? The reason they do that is because it's annoying. It's annoying to people who camp out in front of 7-Eleven. It causes them to leave, no joke. My mother's house sounds crazy. She lived in Playa del Rey. She had a person camp out on her porch, no joke, the grass. I called LAPD and said, hey, you guys, I need your help. Friends, this person's camping out in front of my mom's house. Well, they would pack up and leave during the day, but every night they showed up. The recommendation they gave me was turn on the sprinklers. And as sad as that is, that was the only way I could get them to move on. But I had to turn on the sprinklers. It was kind of like turning on that music. You guys just gotta call LAPD, and again, it's the nuisance, and then they just kind of move on. But I agree with you, that doesn't solve the problem of the fires and the activities that they're doing there. And really, the only thing to do is just to get them to move on. I mean, that's unfortunate. We have so many resources available for people who are experiencing homelessness, but some people are just reluctant to use it.
Is the Santa Monica Conservancy, the park that Julie's talking about, that's owned by Santa Monica Conservancy.
Right.
So they have rangers.
So they have park rangers.
So they have park rangers.
2 of them in this area.
2 of them for the entire Santa Monica Hip Mountains. Amazing. And I assume they have 9 to 5 hours, so after hours and the weekends are on around?
Do you know their hours, Rob? 9 to 5? Something like that?
So if something is, so at nighttime, if something's happening in the Santa Monica, on their property, we cannot get a hold of them? Okay.
So in the Sepulveda Basin, and it would be in your area too, the hardest part is a lot of the areas are in Parks and Recs. In the Sepulveda Basin, one of our biggest challenges is because LAPD is like 100% want to support us, but they'll move into another area that is not protected or in LAPD's jurisdiction, and they'll be migratory, and the system works against us. And that's the case with Julie in your area, is they kind of find shelter in there because they know the rules. They know the rules. I mean, who would have ever thought that the city of Los Angeles would be sued by a group of homeless people? I mean, it's happening, and we laugh, but that's the situation.
Julie, be the squeaky wheel. Anytime your neighbor or you hear somebody on the Santa Monica Conservancy land, call Santa Monica, or don't call them, send them an email, let them know, and put it on record that you constantly made those reports. And if, God forbid, something does happen, but if it does happen, like the Eaton fire, it's a liability, and it's their liability for not taking care of their own land. So be the squeaky wheel. Sometimes it works.
Yeah, usually it does.
June Anderson, are you here? June? Okay, well, this is questions from June. It's Jane Anderson. Sorry, June. Your writing's almost as good as mine, or is it my eyes? Prior to the Palisades fire, they were not in a fire zone. Now a lot of Sherman Oaks Hills are considered to be in fire zones. What are the chances of getting fire insurance easily? And that's Jane right there.
Okay, so Jane, it's a pleasure meeting you. So prior to the Palisades fire, your area wasn't considered high fire severity zone, and now it's zoned for that. So understand that all that, it didn't happen because of the Palisades fire, but all of the new Zone 0 and the new high fire severity zones, those were all being discussed prior because of insurances. I mean, the insurance industry is being crippled by the fires that we've had. The FAIR plan is really one of the only options, and I know people go, you laughed at me before when I talk about calling your council office. People really they think I'm a stand-up comic when I start talking about the FAIR plan, because it limits the amount of money that they'll insure. Most of the homes, I mean, in Los Angeles are well up to $3 million, if not more. And so the FAIR plan is an option that the state offers. And even if you take steps to proactively try to prevent fires in your house, it's very difficult for our insurance companies, especially now after the Palisades fire, to get that kind of insurance. And it worries you, because it's like, well, how do I protect my investment? How do I protect my belongings? And that's a very difficult situation that I honestly think our insurance industry is trying to figure out themselves. Because they're using the fire department to kind of be their escape from having to protect these properties. And for those who are willing to pay it, they're getting that money for it. But if you've read any of the aftermath of the Palisades, a lot of people were underinsured. And when you start thinking about what it's really going to cost to insure what you have, because I don't know about you, but if you look at the Zillow app, as soon as they know you're looking at their app, they'll send you these reminders and tell you about the price changes in your property. That's about as often as you need to call your insurance agent and say, hey, I need to up my ante here. It's crazy as it sounds, but that's the reality of what we're talking about is, are you insured, and are you insured not just to repair what's damaged, or are you insured to replace what's damaged? And it costs a lot of money to insure any investment.
So I have two more questions. I promised him that I would get him out by 8:30, so I apologize.
That's
I'm not going to
okay.
keep you to that. Okay. So these are similar questions. One's from Robert Thomason, and one is from Mary Watkins. Mary, are you here? Raise your hand. There you go.
Hey, Mary.
So they both basically want to know about our reservoirs that service our communities, as well as the water pressure in our areas. How are we doing on our reservoirs, and how are we doing on our water pressure?
Okay, so our reservoirs. So we have the Stone Canyon Reservoir, which is full of water, and Stone Canyon is one of the health spots that we use on a regular basis for our water dropping helicopters. The hydrants were recently, as our deadline to test all of our hydrants was July 1st. So I can tell you, we have 30,695 hydrants, municipal hydrants. I didn't include private hydrants in the San Fernando Valley. Every single one of those were tested by July 1st. So we got all those tested. Some of them are in need of repair. We notified DWP to repair those. Some of those had rod stocks that were missing on our mid-block hydrants. Those are little blue reflective dots. So we went out and we replaced those. But we opened those up and we have sufficient water supply. The Palisades is a very, so I know you talk about the Palisades and people don't realize that the Palisades has actually had devastating fires before. And as the Palisades grew, their infrastructure didn't grow with it. The water supplies didn't grow with it. So what we saw in the Palisades fire was we had a very fast-moving fire that was wind-driven, hurricane winds, and we were drawing water like we've never drawn water before out of mains. So one of the things like we have here down in the flatlands, I guess we call them, is if I have a commercial going and I need more water, it's really easy. I tell our dispatcher, hey, let DWP know we're having hydrant issues, and they'll start shutting down their mains so we can get more water to where we need it. But when you have, if you think about your house, so your house has water running all through it. I mean, you don't realize it, but there's water all over the place. Toilets, sinks, showers. As soon as you start losing your home and they're burning, they become open butts, right? So all that water now is just flowing. So imagine when that Palisades fire, not only did we have the problem with the water supplies and the pumps not working because they're powered by electricity, but we were drawing water out of hydrants at an exorbitant amount, and then you had all these houses that were burning, which now were open butts, it didn't maintain the pressure. I mean, it's funny because I had somebody ask me, so if everybody in California flushed their toilet at the very same time, what would happen?
Nothing.
Nothing, because the water has got enough pressure to be able to support it. But if it keeps going,
That's interesting.
we're gonna be like, hey, my toilet doesn't flush anymore.
So every nozzle that feeds your toilet, your shower, your sink,
That's water.
melt it off,
And
and
now
it's
it's
just
water.
running on the ground. Wow, don't even think about that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The house burns down. Wow, interesting.
And people don't realize that, when you have a big fire like that, we go in and we put water on the fire, but then all of a sudden somebody will say, well, how is there so much water in there? Well, the water, one of the things we do is we shut off utilities. When we go to a structure fire, we shut the power off, gas off, and water off. And we do that because, so one of the other things that a lot of people did, they may have heard about, but they didn't realize, was having all those open butts cause contamination into the water supply. So do you remember hearing about, oh my gosh, in the Palisades, if you're in the neighborhood area, you're in Brooklyn and all that, you've got contaminated water, don't drink the water. That's why it was because all of the debris and everything went into the water source, which was now affecting other systems down the road. It's a pretty incredible system that we just kind of take for granted.
So even if you shut the water main off at the outside of your house and the copper line, the copper valve that shuts the water main off melts, you've got just an open water. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, one last question. It's from Marshall. Marshall, you want to raise your hand? Okay.
Hey, Marshall.
He is talking about, I'm going to spare the political first part of it. But he's talking about the illegal fireworks in Los Angeles and the lack of enforcement. And, during 4th of July coming up, and during the demonstrations, we saw a bunch of illegal fireworks. On a daily basis in the valley, you can hear illegal fireworks happening in certain neighborhoods. What's being done about that?
Sean, what was my #1 complaint last night when I was going to bed?
Giant booms are shaking the building.
Oh my Lord. I honestly felt like the building, the old fire station. I thought the building was gonna fall down. It was so loud, shook the walls, and I feel your pain, because it becomes like a war zone here in Los Angeles. Some parts more than others. They're using commercial grade fireworks, and they're extremely dangerous, and it's everywhere. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of avenues. It's a health and safety code violation to use fireworks. Fireworks are legal, but it's a health and safety code violation. So what LAPD does is they'll confiscate it, they'll take it away. We used to confiscate it, but after what we saw happen on 27th Street, I think it was, we don't touch those things anymore. Because, we just had the house in Pacoima. I don't know if you guys heard about that on Remington, that he was making his own fireworks, commercial grade fireworks, and he blew up the house. And we had to burn the house down because there was so much unknown powders that we couldn't clean it up like a hazmat. We had to literally protect the neighborhood and burn it down. There's not a lot we can do. Honestly, it's LAPD. I was talking to one of the people here in the audience about some actions they've taken in their neighborhood to address it with their neighborhood. And that's the first thing we always say is talk to your neighbors, tell them to stop. So people just don't care anymore. And they don't care if you're their neighbor, and they'll still insist on doing it. The best thing to do is you can call LAPD, get your senior lead officers out there. They can try to address it. If we're available, we'll come out and try to address it. Realize the fire department can't do anything unless somebody gets hurt or there's a fire. And that's the sad part. But it's a health and safety code violation that even if I was standing here with Chief McDonald, it's really something that's very difficult for us to enforce.
I know I told you I get you out of here early, but are you guys going to stick around for if people have individual hardening questions? Can you stick around for a few minutes?
I think they can stick around. You can stick around for a few minutes, Rob?
Okay. Let's do a big round of applause, Chief. Thank you very much.
Thank all of you.